Hey guys, this is Andrew again, and I'm back with another video for my EDF 2085 course. In this video, I'm going to give you like a little breakdown on an article that we read for a class that I had to read, and I'm going to give you a little breakdown by reflecting on it and giving my review on the author's viewpoint and what the whole article tried to entail related to any diversity issue that we decided to choose. So let's go right ahead so I can go ahead and give you the short overview of the entire article that I read for this. Okay, guys, so just to give you an overview, the article that I chose is called High School Students' Math and Science Gender Stereotypes and Relations with Their STEM Outcome and Socializers Stereotypes. All right, so the diversity issue that I chose to focus on, it's the same thing I chose to focus on a multicultural issue that I discussed in one of my chapter discussions, which was stereotyping. Stereotyping is something that has been existing for a long time, and it dates back to certain things that are related to religion, war, politics. So what have you just goes through a lot of things that go on in life, and it's just astonishing that we still think about this. And I decided to focus on this article because the thing is that this article is very detailed on the idea of stereotyping, and I just like how it works because it breaks down different statistics and different polls that are associated with gender stereotypes. So going back to what the overview of the article is, the article discusses the gender-associated stereotypes that male students tend to actually outperform their female counterparts on math and science-related courses. So the article actually includes a lot of polls and statistics that were conducted on three separate things that have to do with what adolescent students think about this. So they talked to 9th through 11th grade students about this and what their thoughts on male and female students' performance in these STEM classes are usually. And they gave their idea that, as a matter of fact, even though it might be their opinion, you can tell right off the bat it was a stereotype because of what they thought based on overgeneralization, for example. So not only were these adolescent students also surveyed, but they surveyed parents and teachers, and they tied in everything that was all correlated to see how it was correlated together. So these authors were actually Christine R. Starr and Sandra D. Simpkins, and this article was actually published on February 7th, 2021, and it focused actually on three questions that had to do with what the article entailed. And these things were actually, what is the prevalence of math and science gender stereotypes among high school students, their parents, and teachers? Are parents and teachers' gender stereotypes related to adolescent stereotypes? That's the second one. And thirdly, but not lastly, of course, last but not least, are adolescent gender stereotypes associated with their math and science identity and outcomes? So the third question basically addresses, are all these basic stereotypes that these misconceptions that they're coming up with, is it true? How are we able to correlate the data afterwards, comparing it to the actuality of the things? So let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about how it relates to the textbook. So textbook correlation and idea of stereotyping. So I would like to actually start talking a little bit about stereotyping. So stereotyping is defined as the action of producing an overgeneralized belief about a particular category of people. So usually most stereotypes are very inaccurate, and they tend to be very demeaning towards a person, so they can prove to be detrimental to a person's self-esteem. So usually stereotypings are not true. It just happens that some people think it's true based on something that they saw in a movie or things that they were influenced to believe because of personal experiences. But most of the time, it's actually not true, guys. This is just things to put somebody down, hurt their self-esteem, hurt what they think, what they believe in, their confidence. Basically, you're destroying it. So this all goes hand in hand with what's highlighted in our class text and PowerPoints about the ideas of ethnocentrism and prejudice, which basically talk about how people like to make judgments based on their own standards. So just like I was discussing before, guys, the idea of people basing it off their personal experiences and what they believe, and that just because those are their standards and it just has to happen to be like that, just like they want it, they make up these stereotypes about these people. So it's basically coins a term of ethnocentrism, and they think it has to apply to the same as others. So they make up these this falsified information about a certain group of people, and that they must conform to their standards versus to what they're conforming to right now. And it also talks about prejudice, which just implies a lack of thought or care in making a judgment, with prejudicial responses being quick, and so on and so forth. So stereotyping can be very dangerous. This is what this article actually in question discusses, which are gender stereotypes, in which groups of people were surveyed believing that one gender is actually superior to the other, and an ability that can determine what path their future basically holds for them. So, like I said before, just not to make it too long, the thing is that they surveyed these group of people. They found that there was a small chunk of people that actually believed the stereotype that male students were actually superior to their female counterparts in these STEM courses. But even though they found just a little small chunk, and it was around the 11th grade, group. It was not only students, but it was actually also parents of these 11th grade students, which they were kind of these researchers that took part of these polls and statistics alongside with the authors that wrote this article, actually were kind of so surprised on how this, idea of stereotypes increased, through these grades, even though it was a small chunk. But why did these older students, and also not only older students, but parents and teachers, believe this idea of male students being superior to female students in their actual STEM courses? And what does it prove to be? And this is what it is, guys. It's kind of crazy, because think about it. I mean, this is somebody's future that you're talking about, and you're just holding these, this prejudice and these stereotypes against them that are proved to be inaccurate. Even though they're inaccurate and all that, it still hurts a person's feelings. And you're talking about that you're crushing basically someone's dreams and hopes of becoming someone maybe in the STEM field in the future. So that's basically how it connects to the whole idea of stereotyping and our textbook. Let's go on next to, so I can highlight my opinion on the actual article itself. All right, so my opinion on the author's viewpoint. So the approach that was used by these authors about including all this data, and it was sufficient data, believe it or not, where they used statistics and polls nationwide, and they also talked to a lot of people in different ethnic groups that they talked to. Swiss teachers, they talked to German teachers and German mothers and parents, basically, about what they thought. They also talked to African American groups, white, Caucasian groups. They talked to Latino groups or Latino families about what they think about male and females, performing in these certain types of classes, which are math and science, STEM related classes, and what hopes that they have of each gender being successful in the future for each one. So they took these three major points and questions, like I said, to seek clarification. They provided it through a lot of statistics and polls that they conducted nationwide with different ethnic groups. So that actually impressed me beyond belief, I'm not gonna lie. They provided sufficient data, so the article was very well done. It was very well published, because it just doesn't leave that gap of what people think. So it also opens a little bit more of our eyes on these existing stereotypes. So like I said, they concluded that there was a very small chunk of people that actually believed this stereotype when they connected it to the actual data being found that male and female students, were actually doing very well on STEM courses alike. But that small chunk that said, no, male students are superior to female students in these STEM courses, it opens a little bit more our eyes on these existing stereotypes and the idea of stereotype and how dangerous it could be and how detrimental it could be to someone's success or self-esteem. So it also ties into a chapter 11 discussion that I talked about, multicultural lesson that I would teach, and it talked about tolerance. So the idea of tolerance basically is having sympathy or indulging in other people's beliefs that are actually differing from each other's, from ours actually, and not making any misconceptions or providing any falsifying, misleading conceptions about something, about that specific group. So that just basically opens our eyes a little bit. So these issues are actually still pending, guys. There's a lot of gender gaps going on, and gender gaps in different things like opportunities that are provided to women, just because of these stereotypes And this, like I said, this goes beyond the classroom, goes beyond households. This goes on to the workplace, and there's still things like gender gaps, like I said, and opportunities for women to rise up in jobs, in moving up. If they work in corporate America, they move up to the corporate ladder. There's problems with women as well being compensated fairly for the same work that they're doing as their male counterparts in the workplace. Same thing that goes as in the classroom. So when a student is commended, usually women, female students are not, expected to perform very well just because of these little stereotypes that go round and round, which is not exactly fair to them. And like I said, guys, after all this data was collected, it was proven that, they were both performing very well, and that female students also have a very promising career and future as well as their male counterparts in these fields. These little things still go on. So the fact that this article brought forth these viewpoints was actually impressed me beyond belief, because it does open a little bit of eyes. I included the link actually in the last PowerPoint slide I'm going to show you guys. So I urge you guys to, if you want to actually take a look at it, I am actually going to be attaching you guys the PowerPoint as well, so you guys can click on it and go through the link, go through the article. I think a lot of you guys are going to actually find it interesting. It's broken down. It's actually a fairly lengthy article, but it breaks down a lot of things, and it provides with a lot of sufficient evidence and data on this topic. Moving on to the next slide. This was our reference used. Like I said, the article was called High School Students Math and Science Gender Stereotypes and Relations with Their STEM Outcomes and Socializers Stereotypes. So I'm actually going to be posting as well, when I post this video on the discussion board, guys, I'm also going to be posting the PowerPoint itself and the reference so you guys can take a look at it yourselves. So yeah, all this is amounted to, guys, and what it culminates to is that the idea of stereotyping can be very dangerous. And as you can see, I decided to choose this article, of course, because it brings forth a hot button issue, if you will, about how students perform in school, or what other people believe that certain students perform in school. And in this particular situation, they wanted to attack genders, and they wanted to attack females. And they thought that males were superior to females, but it doesn't work that way, guys. So I like how this article kind of gave an approach, and I think it's pretty cool if you guys check it out. And you guys, if you guys want to give your input on what you think, not only on my video, my presentation, but also on the idea of stereotyping and on the idea of this article, and what you guys think about gender gaps in society, whether it be in school, the workplace, out in the real world. Just go ahead, talk about it a little bit. I think it will be great. So anyways, guys, with that said and done, this was my presentation, my breakdown on my article. So everything that had to do with my opinion, what the article was about, and how it relates to school and our class. So definitely check it out, guys, and give your own little input on our discussion forum. And comments will be greatly appreciated, guys. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great night.